Okay, trying to get my audio going here. Looks like it is up and running. I'm going to join along here and see what the live chat is doing. Okay, yeah, tsunami warning is up for a lot of places right now. So I was going to do a live stream tonight anyway, but this gives me a good idea to come on here a little bit early because of the tsunami warning. I was going to do some thunderstorm chat about the Pacific Northwest as well, but I mean, we can just talk tsunami if you want also. If you guys haven't heard, there's a tsunami warning. Actually, let's start from the beginning here. There's a 8.7 earthquake there way off across the Northwest Pacific Ocean here. Looks like it was a megathrust quake, so there is some danger because of a tsunami. You can see Kamchatka, and the waves, if they do materialize, would arrive here tonight here in the Pacific Northwest. And I'll show you some of that stuff here as we go as well. But first things first, I just want to kind of show you, they already have some times out. And I'll kind of zoom in on this. You can see they do have for the state of Alaska, British Columbia. These are arrival times, Pacific Daylight Time. You can see there is a chance of even a little bit of that wave action coming in places like the Puget Sound. You see, if they were to come in for Bellingham, it would be about 1:10 in the morning. For Tacoma, it would be about 2 a.m. in the morning. Should be relatively small waves, but you never know how these waves can be focused and whatnot. Can still do some damage. But along the coastal areas, there is more of a threat. Like places like La Push, Nia Bay, Long Beach, and of course, Oregon, Brookings, Seaside, Newport, and whatnot, and all the way up and down towards California is under tsunami advisory as of right now. So I'm going to back out of this, and we're going to go to the National Weather Service page. And you can see if you look close, there's that pink up and down the coastal area. So we have that tsunami watch is in effect right now. So let's take a look here at some of the chat just to see what everybody is feeling. So yeah. 8.7. Yeah, when I first initially heard it as an 8, I thought that maybe that was, maybe a little bit too small to be a West Coast threat, but then I heard it was upgraded to 8.7, which indeed can make it all the way to the West Coast here. And you can see like places like Anchorage, Alaska, tsunami warning has been put into effect here. This was just as of a few minutes ago. And if we bounce back out here and we go to Hawaii, tsunami warning is in effect as well. So anybody watching out there, I don't know that they have any wave heights in here just yet, but some of these currents can get pretty crazy. And there are some bays and whatnot. And I know in Hawaii that, some of these waves can get focused and whatnot. So yeah, so it can be kind of tricky out there. Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people out in the coastal areas here. I don't know, I'm not a tsunami expert or anything like that, but I have been talking to somebody who specialized in this, Kurt Kaplan. He used to work for the National Weather Service, and his specialties was tsunami. I just talked to him on the phone about 15 minutes ago, and he's been sending me some information. And the best place to look for updates is right here. And I'm going to bounce out a little bit there, and I'll scroll down. And you can see the updates are coming in all the time. You can see we had this West Coast Warning Advisory Watch update number 2. Guam, Hawaii, and there's other warnings coming out all the time. So I'm going to keep refreshing this page so we'll kind of know what is going on. Looks like, the latest was for Alaska. Anchorage was upgraded there. But yeah, the West Coast right now is still under a tsunami watch as of right now. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Those big earthquakes like that, 6.5 aftershock. That is a pretty major quake in and of itself. Yeah, I would not say that there's some kind of inherent risk for like places like in the Puget Sound and things like that. But, I am not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination. So, and sometimes it doesn't take much. Sometimes you can get those little waves focused into some of these areas. And I mean, I wouldn't be expecting any kind of devastating wave to be rolling in through the Puget Sound or anything like that. But it could be some nuisance stuff going on. I mean, yeah, there's tsunami routes in place. If you're in any individual locations along the coast, you see those tsunami signs. It's a good idea to follow those, just to be on the safe side. I think that's glacial meltwater stuff that's going on with Mount Rainier and those recent earthquakes. I don't think there's any kind of magmatic earthquake activity going on with Mount Rainier. If anybody knows anything different, let me know. But yeah. Dart boys are lighting up. Oh yeah, so Kurt mentioned about that as well. See if Kurt is in here. Anybody see Kurt Kaplan in here yet? He might come in. I know he was a little bit busy. I think he tried to call a little bit ago as well, but I missed his phone call. Looks like already 900 people watching. Got people blowing up my phone here. I'm getting all kinds of text messages from people and whatnot also. So yeah, greater than 3 meters there for portions of Russia. I can imagine if you're pretty close to the earthquake there. Some, these megathrust quakes don't mess around. You guys probably remember what happened in 2011 for Japan. And yeah, these can produce some pretty nasty tsunamis. So yeah, 7:17 travel time for Hawaii. Is that what the latest is here? I'm going to update that here also. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click on the Hawaii advisory time. Let's see. There it is, 7:17 p.m. That is Hawaii Standard Time. That is for today. So that's still a few hours away. You still have plenty of time. And if you guys know anything about the history of Hawaii, for example, Hilo has been hit by some pretty extraordinary tsunamis over the last 50, 60 years. 1946 comes to mind, 1964. There have been a few others also. 8.7 earthquake. Yeah, I haven't heard how long the duration of the quake was, but I imagine it was probably in excess of 3 minutes if it was 8.7. Russian state medium reports 3 to 4 meter high tsunami. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, that's big stuff. And of course, probably locally higher. Let's take a look here. So we can also see, like you can see the National Weather Forecast Office, Honolulu, they're talking about that. You can see Los Angeles, there's a tsunami watch up and down the coastal areas, the Bay Area, all the way up and down the coast. There's Eureka up towards Medford here, and not to mention we got thunderstorms going on and some dangerous fire conditions for some interior areas. You see Juneau is under the watch right now as well. I'm going to update that, see if there's been any changes to that. Oh, there's still just the watch. I'm going to go to statewide here. Has it been up? This map has not been updated. It doesn't look like there for Anchorage. I'm going to click on that and get a little bit closer. So the warning is out there, but they don't have it just yet. They haven't updated this map yet. And if you guys remember the big earthquake that hit back in the 60s there for Anchorage, did some devastating damage. Of course, that was a much closer earthquake though. Olympia, Washington. Yeah, you're probably going to be, you'll be sometime after 2 a.m. in the morning. Tacoma was scheduled for 2 a.m. But again, I would not think that there would be devastating waves in the Puget Sound. Let's see some other things here. So Eureka. Just see what this says here. So yeah, they do talk about these times. You can see Bellingham again, 1:10 a.m. Oceanside, California. Los Angeles Harbor, 1:05 a.m. Port Angeles, Washington. That may be one to watch there, 12:20 a.m. So, I mean, the main danger is if you are in a harbor or you're close to the sea and whatnot. And sometimes people still don't get these warnings and they see the sea retreat and people go out and they get enthralled by that. And granted, it will be at nighttime, so hopefully that's not going to be a big deal. But you see Long Beach, Washington, 11:45 p.m. Nia Bay, 11:40, La Push, 11:35. So they get the timing pretty accurate. And some of these waves travel pretty quick. You can imagine this is coming all the way across the Pacific Ocean. So these waves move at exceptional speeds. They can move at speeds of jet aircraft across the ocean over the open water. And once they get towards the coastal areas, of course, you get the shallower water. The waves really bunch up and you can create some nasty damage under the right conditions. Point Roberts, you're probably going to be similar to Bellingham there also. So if I click on that, let's see. I'm going to take a look here. We've got, looks like there has been some kind of update here. Non-USA Canada Pacific threat number 3. So what is this here? Based on all available data, hazardous tsunami waves are forecast for some coasts. Okay, so tsunami waves reaching more than 3 meters above tide level are possible along the coast of Ecuador and Russia. Okay, 1 to 3 meters right now, Hawaii, Japan. But I know some of these, you don't want to get too caught up in these heights exactly, because I know some areas get locally higher waves. You don't want to get caught up in that too much. Okay, so they're talking about Guam, Guatemala. Look at all these different places on here. Panama, I mean, all the way down to Mexico, down there, South America. Pretty crazy. Australia even getting in on the action here. China. Big shock through the ocean there. What, pretty wild. A lot of updated times. Honolulu. So this is UTC. Okay, so we're looking at Honolulu right there. And so you minus 10 hours off that. So what is that about? 7:31 about? My math might be off there, but just going down to see what else is in here. New Zealand, Chile. I mean, if there were waves to arrive, I mean, this might be, a 1-inch wave that came down the Puget Sound. So I don't want people to get freaked out and whatnot about waves coming up and down the Puget Sound or anything like that. We have a ways to go. We have time. There's a lot of time going on here. It's 6:16 p.m. right now, so you can imagine you've got at least, you're talking about 6 hours before anything would come into the Puget Sound. It's going to be sooner than for the Washington coast. You're looking at 5.5 hours. These waves are on the way across the Pacific Ocean here. We don't know how big they are. We don't know how damaging they're going to be for a lot of the West Coast. That's why all these areas here are in yellow. This is a tsunami watch. The warning is not up yet. The warning is in effect for places like Anchorage, Alaska, Hawaii, some of the Aleutian Islands out there, and the advisories are in orange. And there's already been reports of some waves also, hitting as well. So, yeah, so there's that earthquake. And you see there's some other pretty good earthquakes already, some aftershocks. So that a 6.9 aftershock right there. It looks like less than an hour after the main quake, a 6.3. So, yeah, pretty impressive stuff. These look like they're aftershocks as well. But yeah, can you imagine a 6.9 earthquake is pretty strong. Yeah. There is no warning in Anchorage. Is that what somebody's saying here? So we got a tsunami. Oh, west. Okay, gotcha. Nope, I misspoke there. Yep, National Weather Service Anchorage just covers this area. Anchorage is not under a tsunami warning. Check, check, check. Break, break, break. Anchorage is not under a warning right now. Sorry about that. They cover the Aleutian Islands, which are under the warning right now. Yep, I misread that here. I just saw Anchorage and I saw this. So, yep, I got caught up. I'm ahead of myself there. So, no tsunami warning for Anchorage, Alaska. So, that's why it wasn't updated. That was what was kind of getting me there. I was wondering why it had not updated to the warning there. But advisory, all Alaska South Coast, Southeast Alaska, Western Canada, Washington, Oregon, California. It is just a watch right now. The advisory is in orange. The warning is in red. Tsunami recorded at buoy 3 feet at the measurement. Yeah, and it's pretty crazy because over the open water, these waves are usually much smaller than once they get to the coastal areas. Yeah, I'll be letting people know if I start to get more information about Puget Sound stuff. Yeah, we are under tsunami watch here, Pacific Northwest. All this stuff here you see under yellow is under tsunami watch. You can see the Puget Sound is not included in that. Okay, let me check that out. That's something I was supposed to do here before I went live. Stand by here, folks. Let me see if I've got any information from Kurt. Let's see. I'm going to ask him if he has the buoy data. He can just link me. But yeah, what else are you guys hearing out there? Let's see. Let's go back and let's update this again. Still nothing new here out of the last few minutes. Yeah, so what time did that occur? 23:24. So 46 miles deep. $10 million damage estimate for Russia. Okay, so we got some damage coming in on Russia. I was actually thinking, I'm talking to some other chasers around here. We're actually thinking about going out to the coastal areas there, but I think right now they're talking about 1 to 3 meter wave for Hawaii, but I would not get caught up in that too much. I would just take it seriously and just kind of be careful, because sometimes those waves can focus depending on your exact location, if you're in a harbor or whatnot, and of course what's around you. That's a good news right there. Looks like Henrik mentioned a good point there, that low tides there, 11:10 a.m. Yeah, 8.7 earthquake, big boy. Yeah, it can take these waves a little bit to start coming across the ocean. They do move fast, but still it's a long ways away from the west coast. I'm checking out some of this water column height stuff on the buoy page. You know, if you do go out to the coast, just make sure you know where you are. You just don't want to really be along the immediate coastline there. It's not going to, this isn't something that's like Western Washington weather says, this is not going to be a big inundation of the Pacific Northwest coast or anything like that. You can get some surges into some of the lower lying places, but this is not, you know, I would not expect big waves, you know, swamping the Washington coast or anything like that. This is not like having a 9.2 earthquake right off our immediate coastline or anything like that. But yeah, I'm going to keep updating this, and we'll just keep to see. We'll keep on watching this to see when we're going to get some updates. But there is a tsunami warning there for the Hawaiian Islands and for some of the Aleutian Islands right now. All the west coast of North America pretty much has a tsunami watch up right now. It includes Washington, Oregon, and California. I'll try this here. Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't go out there without, you know, escape routes and whatnot. Yeah, it's hard to say, because when the Pacific Northwest, when we had our huge 9.0 plus back, what was it, January 26th, 1700, we had a huge earthquake off our coastline there. Japan didn't feel it, but they got swamped with our tsunami waves as those came across the ocean. Granted, that was probably a larger earthquake than what just happened there off the coast of Russia, but you know, you don't want to get caught up too much in the exact wave heights and just how far they are away, because that's a long way across the Pacific Ocean, and they did some pretty good damage in Japan. Yeah, that's a good, I mean, that's just a good thing. You stay off the beach, you stay away from low-lying areas, you don't go walking on any jetties and whatnot. You don't want to be around bays that you think might be getting some of that enhanced wave action, and, you know, because sometimes, you know, tsunami waves hit in certain places, but not others. Also, this can happen up and down the coastal areas. And sorry, I'm clicking on that too much, but let me do this. But yeah, we're waiting here for any new tsunami messages. Let's take a look at here, OBS forecast here. But yeah, 4:24 p.m. message issue time, 8.7. I think that's the data archive there. That's not going to help me right now. But yeah, anybody want to talk about thunderstorms here across the Pacific Northwest as well? Yeah, I think it'd probably be unlikely for the Puget Sound, but definitely stay tuned. I mean, don't stay alert to your local authorities and whatnot, and pay attention to what, you know, tsunami warning system is saying. Because right now there's tsunami watches up right now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit there so I can try not to click on that every single time. I was going to take a look at the 18Z here really quick. We'll get back to the tsunami here in a moment once we get some updates. It still kind of bums me out a little bit. The European is not showing much in the way of thunderstorm activity getting back out over the lower elevations here. But if we take a look, I like the North American model. We'll take a look at precipitation here, composite reflectivity, and we'll go over this really quickly. And on Thursday, you can see some of these stronger showers move out over the lower elevations, but will they be producing lightning? Good question. Cascades, much better chance. So dry lightning is basically, thunderstorms basically that come under that jurisdiction are fast-moving thunderstorms. They're not producing a lot of precipitation, and they can produce lightning strikes. And of course, if it's not raining for a long period of time and they are quick moving, they move over that area and it strikes a tree, you don't have time to put that out. It's not like it's dropping a lot of rainfall. You know, like sometimes we get, you know, kind of drenching rains and you'll get some embedded thunderstorm activity and it can start some fires and whatnot. But if you got enough precipitation, it can really kind of keep that fire activity down. But again, with some of these fast moving elevated storms, those storms just are a bit more likely to actually start the fires, of course. So a lot of times it's not technically a dry thunderstorm, it's just producing small amounts of precipitation. Like for Western Washington and Western Oregon, a lot of times we are under the influence of kind of a pretty cold body of water out here, right? And what do thunderstorms need? They generally need heat and they need deeper moisture. So when you've got all this cool water off the coastline, it tends to stabilize things in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So it makes it difficult to get thunderstorm activity. You need a big temperature change between the surface and the upper levels of the atmosphere. And a lot of times we just don't have that difference here in the summertime west of the Cascades. But things like mountains, higher terrain east of the mountains as well, you heat up that during the daytime and you can easily, or at least more easily, get thunderstorm activity across the higher terrain or eastern portions of the state. Yeah, let's check the tsunami thing here. I just want to keep on checking to see if they update this. And there, oh, we got something here. West coast. What is this? Tsunami warning remains in effect. Who is this for? Palmer Center, Alaska. Let's see. Tsunami warning is in effect for the Aleutian Islands. Tsunami advisory now is in effect for California, Oregon, Washington. Okay. British Columbia, South Alaska, and the Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Islands. Tsunami advisory is in effect. Tsunami watch is canceled for coastal areas of Southeast Alaska, Alaska Peninsula, yada, 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 BC, Alaska border. Tsunami has been generated. The first waves are forecast to arrive at the following locations at specified times. So here we go. Anything updated there? See, now you can see over here, they have forecast max tsunami height. Bellingham, less than a foot. Port Townsend, less than a foot. Port Angeles, less than a foot. Moclips, somewhere around a foot there also. So it might be interesting if you could actually pick up the tsunami there, but also you got to still take some caution with that because there can still be some differences in some of these waves and whatnot. And I don't want to have people like saying this is just a foot and I'm going to go down there and view this thing, because into harbors and things like that, and who knows how these waves are going to interact with some of the terrain as they get closer to the coastline. So you don't want to just go banking on this as well. But you can see Oregon, Port Orford between 1 and 2 feet. Brookings up to 2 feet. You look at California though, Crescent City, it gets a little bit more serious there. Forecast tsunami duration 36 hours, 3 to 6 feet. That's a little bit more serious. What else? What other kind of information do we have here? But yeah, we do have a tsunami advisory. Let's see if we have that updated here. They do have the tsunami advisory out now. It almost looks like that orange east of the Cascades, but that is not it. They just haven't updated the colors yet. They do talk about some of the times here. They don't mention the wave heights initially with that. Yeah, this is just good information overall. If you are located in the coastal area, move off the beach and out of harbors and marinas. You never know exactly how these waves are going to unfold. You should not be. I don't really like that information about the exact wave heights. I mean, I think that can get some people in trouble. Yeah, Crescent City got really hit hard by that 1964 Alaska earthquake. I think 13 huge waves hit, and I think one of the biggest waves was one of the last waves, and it ended up killing people. So yeah, pretty big, nasty tsunami there. Kurt Kaplan, so 1 to 3 feet. Yeah, Kurt is a previous National Weather Service tsunami expert. I talked to him on the phone a little bit earlier there. So yeah, he talks about the tsunami advisory means that inundation height should reach between 1 to 3 feet. The quake was way up towards the Kamchatka Peninsula, up towards Russia, north of Japan there, off to the west of the Aleutian Islands. So all the way out across the Northwest Pacific Ocean, but those waves over the open water can travel at the speed of jet airplanes. Thanks for the generosity, Keith Evans. Thank you much. Thanks for going live on this. Japan is shutting down reactor operations currently and is starting to advise people to evacuate the eastern coast of Japan. But yeah, we got some timing here. I mean, you can see Tacoma, they didn't even bother to, if you could detect that in Tacoma, it might be just a few inches or something like that. Bellingham, less than a foot, about 110. And I had some people mentioning that we should be at low tide there. Yeah, about 500 miles per hour. Well, the tsunami watch has been changed. It's no longer tsunami watch. We have tsunami advisory. So if I go to San Francisco, this should update here as well. Yep, so you can see tsunami advisory is now in effect, generally between 1 to 3 feet. 1 to 3 feet. And again, you can see some of these wave height times here. Crescent City, California, again, where the waves could be a bigger there. Some of the coastal areas are better aligned for some of the wave focusing, and 11:55 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, July 29th. That is today, right before midnight. Crescent City, probably one of the biggest threat areas on the West Coast. And yes, we have, let me update that. But yeah, you can see all these. If I click on these are all aftershocks. Look at the initial, the initial earthquake has now been up to 8.8, 8.8. And then they had a wicked 6.9 aftershock, a 6.3 aftershock. Actually, this 17, 16. So yeah, this was less than an hour after the main quake. This was just under an hour from the main quake, and these are some pretty big aftershocks rolling in there as well. So yeah, 8.8 now it's been upgraded to. Still shows 8.7 there. So if I zoom in here, you can see that there's tsunami advisory for the coastal areas there. So Waimea Big Island under a tsunami warning right now. Diamond Eye Dragon, welcome. The bathymetry is what causes some beach and coastal areas to receive large inundations such as Crescent City, as Michael mentioned. Thanks for the good knowledge there, Kurt. I have not checked. If anybody, I'm having a hard time. Can somebody send me the link directly to the buoys there that are showing? If anybody can link me to the buoys there, somebody text me on in the Discord. Oh yeah, that's right. Jonathan Pulley out there on Whidbey Island is actually pretty close to the sea there in Whidbey Island. One of the storm chasing people in the area here. Okay, I'm gonna grab that here. NDBC. Sorry, stand by here, folks. NDBC NOAA.gov. Yeah, this was what I was looking at earlier. I'm not sure. I don't deal with this too much here, so I don't know how to read these exactly, but it does look like there's some interesting looking wave action with some of these buoys out there. Oh, I can't tell. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert here with these buoy maps, but I'm going to bring this over here. So I think we might have to wait a little bit here before these stations report back. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I will just leave that there for now. Yeah, chance of thunderstorm, chance of tsunami. What else can you ask for? So did they upgrade this quake again? Let's see here. I'm going to update that. USGS reports 8.8. 8.8. Okay, so the flashing ones are recording in 15-second data. I'm going to close that one out. Close that out for now, and that, these are just information that I can click and get that back up. We're going to go to, so these ones are updating every 15 seconds. These are looking for any kind of wave information. It does look like the water column height got a little bit squirrely there. I wish you could zoom in a little bit more on that, but I don't know that you can. But yeah, if you guys are, the buoys are just out there. They're floating in the ocean. They can pick up wave heights. So we're kind of scanning to see what they are showing. But if you're just checking in, there's been some damage along the coast of Russia. Japan is expecting tsunami. There are tsunami warnings in effect for a lot of the Aleutians. And there are tsunami advisories for a lot of the west coast of North America now. Up and down the west coast. If I click on Seattle, you can see this orange right there, tsunami advisory. Talk about the San Juans, Whidbey Island, some of the areas of northern Snohomish County, Skagit, Whatcom County, Port Angeles. But again, these waves are not expected to be huge, but again, you could still get some individual locations that get more wave action than others, so you could still get some damage. Not at night. You should be out walking on the beach or on jetties or anything like that, or in your low-lying areas. I would stay away from that. What is this special weather statement here? So I got a special weather statement out talking about some of the forecast tsunami times. That's another thing too. It can produce strong currents also. It doesn't have to be huge waves necessarily. Long Beach, Washington, generally less than a foot. So preliminary magnitude was 8.7. Still showing that here on the tsunami warning system. USGS reported 8.8. I'm going to update this. These are aftershocks. You can see the initial quake of 8.8 and the 6.9, 6.3, so big aftershocks. I think the tsunami was in excess of 3 meters here along the Russia coast, which is plenty big enough to cause damage. So tsunami confirmed in North Japan. Yeah, I heard that this was a megathrust quake, which are more favorable for producing tsunami-like waves. I don't know. Maybe Kurt can chime in on that one too. I don't know the exact nature, if that's true or not. It's just something I saw on X, so that's just kind of hearsay. Yeah, there could be some interesting footage like Western Washington Weather talks about, coastal marinas, bays, and harbors in terms of what happens with boats. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it's just kind of it's a novelty. It's kind of an interesting scenario. And it's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, because anybody who knows anything about the geology of the Pacific Northwest knows what we potentially have off our coastline. We know that we've gotten huge, devastating earthquakes right along the subduction plate here for, Washington, Oregon, Vancouver Island, BC. Big earthquakes, and this goes all the way up to California as well, but these ones can be big tsunami producers. And we know for a fact that in the year 1700, on January 26th, we generated a huge tsunami wave that made it all the way across the Pacific Ocean and, did some big damage in Japan. And we know that because Japan didn't feel the quake, but they still got swamped with these waves, and they had kind of like an orphan tsunami, they called it. And then our geology, or kind of lined up with what happened approximately at about that time, the year 1700. So we know that it was generated here off our coastline. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind here, that we are in tsunami territory here in the Pacific Northwest, especially along the Washington coast. I know there's been a lot of attempt to build tsunami proof zones or like towers along the Washington coast, because some of these areas, like if you're out there on Long Beach, Washington, you can imagine if there's a local quake of 8 or greater or 9 or greater that produces the huge tsunami, and you're out here on Long Beach, Washington, and everybody's out there on the road trying to get off this beach, you're not going to make it. So you would need some place to go to get to higher ground. And there's not a lot of that for places like Long Beach, Washington. Ocean shores could be dealing with the same thing. And even along the Oregon coast, it might be tough to get away from the immediate coastline in a timely manner if you get a big subductions on earthquake right off the coastline. Yeah, the only thing with the wave, so yeah, the wave itself might not be a big deal, but you can still get some strong currents and whatnot, or you might get some focusing and whatnot in some certain areas. So I would not discount it completely. It's something, just know the timing of the wave in your area, know that it can go on for a few hours and then go back down into the lower elevations and down towards the sea, and you'll be safe. I mean, most likely you're going to be fine anyway, but still. Yeah, the slope of the seafloor is a big deal, a big part of what kind of waves roll into. See if there's any kind of other updates, but did they update Hawaii here? Let's see. I'm going to zoom in on Hawaii. We're going to go to Honolulu here and see what this says. It looks like they're still under a tsunami warning there for the entire state of Hawaii. Yeah, Long Beach Peninsula, the road would be just jammed. There's only really one or maybe a couple side roads to get off of that spit of land out there. And like Garrett Hartung is mentioning, 15 to 30 minutes, the wave could be upon you. And I think it could even be quicker than that if we had like the big one. You're talking about a 9.2 or something like that. It would be pretty quick. Places like Seattle, if you look at the Puget Sound itself, let me just go ahead in there. There's fault lines that run under Seattle, and there's been big tsunamis in the Puget Sound, but those come generally from like the Seattle fault quakes and whatnot. You get the big uplift in a pretty dramatic earthquake, like a 6.7, a 6.9 shallow on the Seattle fault can create damaging tsunami waves in the Puget Sound. But from Japan or from Russia or across the Pacific Ocean, you're not going to get those huge damaging waves into the Puget Sound. Yeah, maybe we can get the channel over 100,000 subscribers tonight. Who knows? Got 3,000 people on the live stream right now. Yeah, regular waves are different than tsunami wave heights. That's definitely true also. An orphan tsunami is basically like Japan on January 26, 1700. They got swamped by waves. They didn't feel the earthquake. So they were like, what the heck is going on here? And turned out it was a huge subduction zone earthquake off the coast of Washington that sent those huge waves across the Pacific Ocean. So it can be thousands of miles away and still do big damage. Video has been released to the tsunami in Japan. Yeah, Dan Backcountry just said that it was, not a very big wave, so that's good news there. Yeah, I mean, what is it in Hawaii right now? It's 3:50, so you still got another 3.5 hours before it gets there in Hawaii. But I would definitely I know how it gets there. I can remember tsunami sirens going off, and it just becomes an absolute freak show out in the islands there. I mean, a lot of the people live in Honolulu and really close to the coastal areas there. I mean, you go around Oahu, and there's just places lined all close to the shoreline there. The big island, you've got Hilo, and some of the bays there can get kind of nasty, but the good news is you can just go inland. The problem is there's a lot of traffic, but you've got hours of advised time here, so hopefully everybody can get to a kind of a higher location. Buoy detected 6-inch rise approaching Hawaii. Yeah, and the problem with that too is that those waves are actually not very big as they cross the Pacific Ocean. And then as they get closer towards the coastal areas, they really start to bunch up and they can get really much bigger. But you can see where we are now. Here's the tsunami advisory up and down the west coast, all the way up through Western Canada. This is not too much of a user-friendly site there, but we have warnings there for the Aleutian Islands as well. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to navigate there, but still a good tool. I'm going to update that, see if there's anything new that comes in here. American Samoa, warning watch advisory. Let's see what that says. Tsunami advisory in effect for American Samoa. This is just, if nothing else, this is a good drill. Just a reminder that we live in earthquake country here in the Pacific Northwest and along this, California all the way up and down. Kevin Miller, thanks for the generosity. "30-centimeter high tsunami in Japan." Don't have any wave heights on there. Let's see, tsunami height, there we go. So looks like the following are tsunami wave observations from coastal and or deep ocean sea level gauges at the indicated locations. The maximum tsunami height is measured with respect to tide level. So Dart 21,416 feet. I don't know exactly where that is, but kind of interesting. Hillary C., thank you very much for your generosity, you guys. Yeah, and this is another, just because the wave heights say 1 foot, I mean, some of these unusual currents and whatnot can still cause boat damage and pier damage and stuff like that. So it's just good practice to just kind of stay away when you know a tsunami wave is potentially coming, even if it just says 1 foot. I was waiting here to see if the North American model here, the 3 km should, there it goes, it's starting to load now. So let's take a look at that. We're only through 8 hours though. Looks like there's some thunderstorms going on in eastern Oregon. I did see some cumulus building up across some of the Cascades as well. Hoping to get some lightning here over the next couple of days across the Cascades. I might go out there chasing that today, or tomorrow, sorry. Today's Tuesday. Yeah, Patrick B., I wouldn't be too concerned about the heat just yet. Anything that does happen in the extended forecast is just that, way off in the extended right now. In fact, let me just duplicate this. We're going to duplicate that, and we're going to go to the European artificial intelligence. The 18Z should be in. We're going to bounce out to oceanic, and we're going to go to northeast, and we're going to go to heights, and we're going to just take a look at what it shows here. Keep that troughing going there. Then that ridge tries to build. How much does it? It's not too bad right there as we go through the 7th and 8th. That would warm us up a bit here. But then, again, we're looking 240 hours out in the forecast there. And that's not a bad ridge there either. August 10th, we can still get pretty darn right hot here across the region. That would be a decent ridge. But again, very close there. I mean, you shift this by a couple hundred miles either direction and you would really warm us up, or you would cool us down much more. You'd keep more onshore flow going on. So there's the hint of that ridging showing up in the extended forecast. But again, you can kind of see how that zonal flow comes back pretty quick as well. Coastal flooding reported in Russian places closer to the epicenter. Not huge tsunami waves in Japan. That's good to hear. Yeah, I would not be standing in a place where you couldn't get the higher ground. Even if a 1 foot tsunami wave is coming, that's still a lot. There's still a lot of water. There's a lot of motion and whatnot. And who knows how those currents are going to react. It wouldn't be anywhere where you are at the mercy of the water with any kind of tsunami wave or currents going on out there at all. I would just kind of steer clear, have a safe observation place, and I wouldn't even mess with that, especially on the island of Hawaii. No, I would not. There's no evacuation warnings, anything like that for any of the Washington, Oregon, or California coast. There's a tsunami advisory up right now. You can see there's the advisory up and down the west coast of North America. Got warnings for Hawaii. Some of the Aleutian Islands are under tsunami warnings, though. Well, if there was a big quake off the Washington coast, you're going to feel the quake. So the thing is, if you feel big shaking and that earthquake is going on for 3 to 4 minutes, you know it's one of the big ones. So that's when you would want to immediately be vacating. If you're on the Washington, Oregon, or California coast and you feel big shaking, you can't waste any time, especially if you're in a location, again, like I mentioned earlier, like Long Beach, Washington, or anything like that. You do not want to be hanging around for long. And that's why they're trying to build those big towers and those tsunami-proof zones, like big, huge concrete platforms where you can just go up a certain amount of height and you can be safe from the tsunami waves. But I guess some of the funding was difficult to come by with some of that. Yeah, if that was just an open wave at 3 feet in the deep ocean, that'd be kind of interesting. Yep, I'll go out on a limb here and say if you're in Nevada, you are safe from a tsunami warning. I see some people saying hi from Nevada. Let's see, Los Angeles tsunami advisory. Let's see if they mention anything different on any of these National Weather Service pages. The first wave may not be the largest. That's hard lessons learned. Crescent City tsunami in 1964. I think one of the 12th or the 13th wave or something like that was one of the biggest ones, and it actually swamped and killed people. So yeah, first wave is not always the biggest. Kind of funny how they mentioned Tacoma, Washington on that too. I mean, you might get a couple inch wave there. Would you even be able to detect that? Who knows? Let's go back out here and I will go to, yeah, it looks like it continues to do aftershocks. This one looks like it was 17 minutes ago. 37 minutes ago, and these are some pretty big shakes. If you're living along the coastline there, you are getting rocked tonight. If you're out there in Russia, man, you got the big one there a couple hours ago, and you're still rocking and rolling 6.9, 6.3. Looks like they're kind of getting a little bit smaller and kind of leveling out, but I mean, a 5.5 earthquake can you still feel that. It can rock you pretty good. Yes, there's a tsunami warning for the Aleutian Islands. That is correct. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Susan Yu puts out a good point there. This is going to cause boat and dock damage. There's always that potential. This matters. This coastal town's there. If you're a fisherman and your boat's getting these strange currents are coming up and pushing your boat up against the dock and whatnot, and you can damage vessels and things like that, which can be very hard on fishermen. Yeah, the big one you could get, especially if it's close by, you could get nothing's off limits there as far as the Washington, Oregon, and some of the California, Vancouver Island coastline there. Those waves can push up into the coastal areas, I know. And the problem with it too is when you get the big subduction zone earthquakes is the ocean, the entire elevation drops by a few feet, so it's sliding under the plate out there. And you get these huge waves that then inundate areas, and it can be very destructive. But, we didn't have a big earthquake off our coastline today. I don't want anybody to think that. But we did have one across the Pacific Ocean, just kind of a reminder what can happen here in the Pacific Northwest. Aleutian Islands, Alaska just upgraded to severity extreme. Let me update here and see if we have any information coming in with that. Let's see. American Samoa, Guam. When did this one come out? 24. Okay. And I'm going to click on, let's do this. We're going to go to, so right now, looks like Anchorage doesn't even have the watch or advisory out right now. So it looks like you are okay right now as far as Anchorage is concerned, Cordova, places like that, Homer. Oregon, you have the tsunami advisory up right now. You can see some possible timings of the waves here. And just a good general idea, just, you know, strong currents, dangerous waves, possible. They say expected here. Move off the beach and out of harbors and marinas. Stay out of the water and away from the shore. Listen to your local authorities. This was updated 16 minutes ago here by the National Weather Service, Medford, Oregon, Charleston, Port Orford, Crescent City, California. Actually had some of the biggest wave heights potential on the tsunami warning center here, warning system for Crescent City, California. So if you're watching from California, heads up for that. In fact, I believe this was it, wasn't it? Yeah, that's significant there. You can see the duration, 36 hours of the waves, 3 to 6 feet. I would definitely be careful there if you are in Northern California, Crescent City especially. Don't take that lightly. Thanks. Hope approaching 100,000 subscribers. I can't see that right now apparently, but let's go to the Oh yeah, look at that. We got about almost got 300 subscribers today. Not bad. Yeah, we're approaching it quietly. We're getting up towards. We're getting up towards 100,000 here. We're getting close. Yeah, Crescent City does have that history. Yeah, I see that the USGS is a little bit different than what NOAA is saying about the actual earthquake potential. If you guys are just joining, we had an 8.8 just off the coast of Russia there. Here's Japan. A lot of aftershocks, a couple big ones, actually more than a couple big ones. But there's a tsunami advisory for some of the west coast of Canada all the way down towards California. There's a tsunami warning for Honolulu and the entire state of Hawaii. But I believe they said this was actually a deep water buoy that reported 3 feet. Seems kind of big. Dart measurements are from deep ocean, and they are generally much smaller than would be coastal measurements at similar locations. So I would definitely take heed of this. It's always good to be more safe than sorry, especially if you're in the Hawaiian Islands, because that is a big open ocean wave. When that gets to the coastline, that could bunch up much bigger. And then there's places like Hilo Bay. I mean, I know waves get focused in there. That was a big problem like in 46 and 64. You know, a lot of people were killed in those huge tsunamis. So I would definitely be taking this to heart. If you're watching this from Hilo, Hawaii right now, you guys know the history. There's a tsunami museum right on your waterfront there. I was just there like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, definitely take that to heart. No, this has not been bad. I mean, this page has been really, my YouTube channel, for whatever reason, I get a few trolls, but generally not much. I mean, I got a lot of intelligent people that comment, a lot of people who bring good observation to this channel. So I've had fun here. I have a few moderators, but I rarely see them doing much. I don't see many trolls. It's crazy. If everybody watching right now clicked subscribe, I would go over 100,000 subscribers. And then I'd be able to do a weather station giveaway. I think once I hit 100,000, maybe I'll do, I don't know how I would do it. Maybe I'd just give it away to a random person tonight. Who knows? So if you're listening right now, click subscribe. See if we can hit 100,000. I'll give away a weather station tonight. Tsunami. Yeah, that's a good point too. You can bet that the fishing boats will be out of the Crescent City Harbor tonight. I'm just looking at tsunami.gov right here. And so I've been updating this. It's been really good at giving updates. I talked to a tsunami expert, Kurt Kaplan, here about an hour ago, and he was explaining things to me too. He worked for National Weather Service down in California for many years. Kurt is back in the house. There he is. So yeah, Crescent City. Those waves aren't trivial there. I would definitely pay attention to that. And I would definitely be paying attention if you were in Hawaii right now as well. Some wave activity, some dangerous currents could still happen for Washington, Oregon coast. So always pay attention to that. Lake Gregory weather. Thanks for the generosity. Cheryl, welcome to Basic Channel Support. I was living on my boat in Marina del Rey when Fukushima happened. My harbor was the only harbor on the coast of California that did not sustain damage. Yeah, Crescent City and Port San Luis are two of the biggest concerns in California right now. This is the tsunami expert here with us right now from the National Weather Service, Kurt Kaplan. You see his comment there? I was going to I've already made him a moderator there, so that's good, okay. Yeah, that Japan tsunami was a mess, man. My goodness. I was actually in Las Vegas on vacation at the time. That was absolutely wild. Pamela Keys, thank you for the generosity. Yeah, I don't know that. Hopefully, I mean, I know these waves don't always travel uniformly and whatnot, so hopefully whatever wave action that was picked up, maybe that's just going to not point right at the Hawaiian Islands or the West Coast. Who knows? Yeah, it looks like Southeast Alaska right now is not under a tsunami advisory at all. There's Anchorage. Looks like Southeast Alaska is not. There's a tsunami advisory for places like Cold Bay, Alaska, but not for Kodiak, not for Homer, not for Anchorage, not for Yakutat along the coastline, Southeast Alaska. Right now, not under the advisory. But if we bounce out a little bit here, you'll see that we've got this up and down the Washington coast, includes some of the San Juans, Whidbey Island. So again, just because it says it's only going to be a foot, there still can be dangerous currents and things can still happen and boats can be damaged and stuff. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. Thanks for all the kind words, everybody. Glad you're having fun. Troll-free channel for the most part. Like 99% of the people in here are actually legit people having fun conversations, so that's good. So Kurt just sent me this, Crescent City, California. So 10 p.m. low tide, that's a good thing there. I know the wave comes after that, so it'll be on the rise a little bit, but that's you can't complain too much about that. So this is today. Okay, so we're talking about the 29th. This isn't going to the 30th just yet. Yeah, the currents. Yeah, a lot of people click on the plot data. There we go. So this goes on into tomorrow. Does this any way of bringing that? Oh, I can't say, okay. Reset zoom. Can I move this to the 30th? No. More data. A nice cool 60-degree water temperature there in Crescent City, California. So I'm going to back out of there again. But yeah, we're not going to be at peak high tide, so that's a good thing also. Okay, so this is the actual height. So if there is some kind of wave action coming in here, like some kind of tsunami activity, it should show here. I'm going to update this to see if there's any new information here. BC has been issuing continuous warnings. That's when you know the waves have reached the coast. Okay, copy that. Yeah, any kind of wave action is not expected to be here until later tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got a lot of data pages. I'm going to close some of these out. We're going to go to Medford. For example, you can see here Port Orford, Crescent City is expecting this just before midnight tonight. So you still have a lot of time. You've got over 4 hours right now before any of these waves approach the west coast. Drew is in the house. Greetings from Spokane. That's interesting. Can anybody confirm that? Jules put out the first waves from tsunamis have hit the coastline of Hokkaido. We got Jonas Miller in the house. Jonas Miller, the comedian. Who would have thought? 11:55. Yeah, so look, that pretty close. Yeah, Medford showing 11:50. Kurt says 11:55. So yeah, pretty much spot on there. Anchorage, that advisory has been dropped. There's no watch or advisory out now for Anchorage, Alaska. As you can see, Japan, tsunami warning is in effect. ADAC, tsunami warning is in effect. Yes, you are. As you can see, tsunami warning. ADAC, ATCA, St. George, St. Paul. I talk to the weather observer once in a while out there, ADAC, Alaska. I work for Alaska Airlines here, so it's, yeah. So what does this mention about were there actually foreshocks before this earthquake happened? Is that one was a little bit further south. Yeah, it looks like there was, actually look at that, there was a couple earlier in the day. I wonder if those were actually foreshocks. It'd be interesting to hear a geologist talk about that in some detail, if those were actually foreshocks. And yesterday there was actually one just 65 kilometers southwest of Adak. But yeah, if you're just joining, 8.8 earthquake there, big aftershocks also following up. There's been some damaging tsunami waves. There's been some tsunami activity here for some of Japan. There are tsunami warnings up for Hawaii. There are tsunami advisories up for the west coast. Now I'll have to check out the video after about the actual tsunami wave hitting. Jonas in the house. I was going to update this too. We're doing thunderstorms and tsunamis. We'll get back to the tsunami here in a moment. I want to see how far the North American model is out, which also makes me, I'm going to do this. We're going to look at the weather here really quick in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to play that. Oh, it looks like We got some stuff going on here down by Mount Rainier. Look at those cumulus clouds blowing up there. Let me go to sub-regional. We're going to zoom in a little bit more here so we can pick up on that activity. Did we get lightning out of that? We did. Look at that. We had a thunderstorm there right near, just off to the east. Looks like Chinook Pass got it today. Boom. And south. And another one there off to the east of that even. And you can see western Montana, some of Idaho. And if I go across Oregon, you can see, look at that plume of thunder. Look at that complex of storms. Man alive. So yeah, this is going to be moving its way up a little bit further north over the next couple days also. So anybody wondering about that thunderstorm activity, you can see it here. And this is going to be with us for the next few days. I might go out chasing this tomorrow, actually. Sent you Japan video. Is there any way I can view that though without getting copyright violated here on? Oh, I see that Matthew Fab also sent me the tsunami, the buoy center. So they said they got a 3-foot wave here, but I don't see that it shows up on the water column height. So maybe I'm just reading that wrong. Yeah, that's another thing too. Let me zoom in on that. Look at the Olympic Mountains here. Look at that fire, man. So I have a really good view of this. I should almost go time lapse that here once I get off this live stream. Look at that fire just absolutely blowing up. Almost looks like there's a little bit of pyrocumulus on top of that. Pyrocumulus is when the forest fire is actually generating enough of an updraft that it makes condensation and actually forms a cloud. And in some cases, the more extreme cases, you can get lightning out of some of those pyrocumulus clouds there. So you get thunderstorm generated by a forest fire. Doesn't look like that was the case here, but you can really see that fire has blown up there. So if you are Puget Sound from the Kitsap Peninsula, look off to your west. Olympia, Tacoma, look off to your northwest. You can see the Olympic Mountains. Try to check out that smoke out there. That is billowing up pretty good. So yeah, we got tsunami advisory. We got forest fires. We got thunderstorms. Active summer, just another day here in the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, let's do the updates here again. I'm going to update this. So they bring the updates here. So right now we don't have another update just yet. We're waiting to see what they say. You can see the orange here for Western Canada, Washington, Oregon, California. Tsunami advisory is in effect. Tsunami warning is in effect for Hawaii. And you got the Aleutian Islands there with tsunami warning in effect. And we got, yeah, the earthquake all the way out here by Russia. Did we hit 100,000 subscribers? If so, I'll give away a weather station tonight. Somebody walk on with a weather station. I see 2,000 people in the chat right now. Click that subscribe button. I know probably most of the people are already subscribed, but yeah. We're almost to 99,000 subscribers though. Pretty fun. So yeah, we're just waiting for some more. The messages come here. So when they dropped the watch and they turned it to an advisory, it was given in this information here. So they are updating this. I'll continue to click refresh to see if they give any more data on that. I'm going to close some of these data tabs out for now. There's a Crescent City tide. We'll watch that as we go. Nothing going on with that. I'm going to close out some of these data tabs as we go as well. Water column height. Checking out some of the buoys there. It's funny they have actually some pictures of the buoys out there. And if you're just joining, we also have this activity here across the Washington Cascades. Thunderstorm activity. This is going to happen again tomorrow. Forest fires along the Olympic Mountains. This is moving up towards Sequim and Port Angeles. So when you see that smoke come overhead, you know it's from that fire there across the Olympic Mountains. I forgot the name of the fire. Let me check it out here. Large fire map. Have they not updated this yet? No, looks like they have. The Hama fire, is that the one? That's not Bear Gulch, is it? Or is that's the Hama fire? I'm assuming that's the Hama fire. Reported acres last was 30. That's not 30 acres anymore because that thing is really launched off right there. "40 centimeters, Hokkaido. 2,000 people in the chat. Not bad. So is that the Bear Gulch? Did the Bear Gulch go off again, or is that the Hama fire? Because it looks like, it almost does look like the Bear Gulch fire. Because the Hama fire looks closer to 101. I'll bring this over here. So if you're driving around 101, there's the Bear Gulch fire here. So that is the larger of the two, no doubt. We're looking at 1,000 acres there. There's the Hama fire. I did see this one producing some smoke, but yeah, if that's the Bear Gulch, it really got going again. Yeah, no, that's what it looks like too. So that is quite interesting. Bear Gulch. Wow, so it really got re-going. Yeah, big tsunami in Russia there. We're watching this. 8.7 or 8.8, depending on who you're looking at. I'm going to go back out here, and you can see it's some big aftershocks continue out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them over 5.0. And after the initial shock, we had a 6.9. That's a big earthquake, and a 6.3. And then we've had multiple 5 or greater since. In fact, this one was just a little bit ago. Bear Gulch is only 10% contained at this time. Whidbey Island, you're under tsunami advisory right now, and that's generally 1 foot, but still don't take that as just a regular 1 foot wave. Of course, you know, tsunami waves act differently. There could be dangerous currents associated with them as well. So take that into account. This is Western Washington. You can see the tsunami advisory in effect. We got red flag warnings for the Cascades because of the thunderstorm activity ongoing today. And the Bear Gulch fire is also blowing up as well. So that might be my project tonight, is to go out there and time-lapse that Bear Gulch fire, really ramping up there. A lot of thunderstorms across Oregon, and had a fair amount of strikes there across portions of Washington. That overperformed a little bit on what some of the weather models were saying there. So tomorrow might be kind of fun across some of the higher terrain. The warning for Hawaii is supposed to be, okay, so I'm not sure. Well, advisory is different than a watch. A watch is just kind of an initial, you know, like, hey, let's check this out and see what it's going to do. But then it either turns into, they either drop the watch, or it turns into a warning, or it becomes an advisory. So an advisory is just more information. Dan's Backcountry mentions that he's worried that it might make its way over the ridge and burn up the Jefferson Creek Valley there for the Bear Gulch fire. Man, what's with the Olympic Mountains there, or some of the Olympic Peninsula there has produced some pretty good fires over the last couple of years. Yes, let's go over that again really quick here. So, do they mention this here? They do. So yeah, you can see like Tofino, British Columbia, 11:30 wave arrives. La Push, Washington, 11:35. Long Beach, Washington, 11:45. Brookings, Oregon, 11:50. Crescent City, 11:55. Monterey, California, 12:15. Yada, yada, yada. And notice they do put Tacoma, Washington in there at 2 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So early in the morning, we're not expecting any kind of damaging waves down into the Puget Sound or anything, but you might get some squirrely currents out there. So just have your wits about you. Just know this is out there and coming. Hama Valley, is that how you pronounce that? So Bear Gulch is over 1,200 acres, okay? Yeah, and that's a good point to remember, that the initial waves aren't always the strongest. That Crescent City tsunami in 1964 that killed people, I believe it's one of the later waves in that whole event that actually killed people. Yeah, that was the Cushman fire. I was doing that one as well with a couple. What was that? A couple years ago now. Yeah, it's just a good. This is just a good drill. Also, just if you can, just avoid going on the beaches overnight tonight after 11 p.m. Just watch out for those currents. Kind of make sure your boat's as safe as it can be if you're in harbor and whatnot, because some of those currents can cause damage. Hama hama. Yeah, I might live stream tomorrow, depending on how it looks too. Yes, 8.7. Looks like the USGS has it at 8.8. We got that 8.8 upgrade there. Interactive map, regional, man, they got all kinds of stuff here. Estimated intensity. Fault plains. Oh, so that's where they were getting that mega thrust earthquake information from. I don't know exactly how to read this there, but I saw somebody talking about this on X. Yeah, this is biggest since the Japan quake back in 2011. Yeah, wave height's generally fairly small, but that doesn't mean that you still can't have some damage. I'm going to zoom in a little bit there. I'll scroll like that. And you can see where the warnings are in red: Aleutian Islands, Hawaiian Islands. You can see where the advisories are: California, Oregon, Washington, into some of the interior, into the strait would be Island, San Juan's, Bellingham. Western Canada, up towards the Queen Charlotte's, Haida Gwaii is under tsunami advisory as well. There has been tsunami waves generated, yes, and some of the deep water buoys have picked up on some of those waves. Beach balls show fault orientation. See, I told you I got a lot of intelligent people in here. Yeah, that's, for example, yeah, the Washington and Oregon coast, there are some areas that are high that are right by the immediate coastline there where you're not going to be in danger of some of the tsunami waves. You worry about the people who are out on the beach or out in jetties, who are in harbor. You never know how those currents are going to act. The currents will go. So Kurt Kaplan, you didn't hear me mention this, Kurt Kaplan is a tsunami expert. He worked for the National Weather Service in California. The currents will go in and out of the harbors. Even if the inundation heights don't reach expected heights, it will last for several hours. So there is that danger. Now, for example, when I clicked on the Hawaii warning one, they did mention on some of the buoys here, some of the deep water buoys did show some, wave heights there, some interesting wave heights. Dart measurements from the deep ocean, they're generally much smaller than would be expected at coastal locations. Annie Frost, thanks for the generosity. Yeah, what was that 1960 Chilean earthquake? Was like 9.5, something ridiculous. I believe we're going to be in low tide. We're be coming out of low tide when these waves arrive on the Washington coast. So it won't be at low tide. It'll be in between low and high, but it should not be at high tide. I mean, unless you're at the mouth of some of these waterways along the immediate coastline, I wouldn't worry too much. It's not going to be coming well up the Columbia River or anything like that, so I would not worry about that. But yeah, this is a big earthquake. 8.8 is a huge earthquake. It's the biggest earthquake probably in the last 14 years. Again, you can see where it was located right there, right off the coast of Russia. There's Japan off to the south and west of that. And again, we got the warnings there for the Aleutian Islands. We got the advisories for some of the Aleutian Islands as well. West coast of Canada, Washington, Oregon, California. Tsunami warnings in effect right now for Hawaii. Let me update this, see if we get any updates there. Not yet. What is this? Watch number 4. Is this one? No, that's still an older one there. But they do mention some of the wave heights here. Looks like they downgraded the Crescent City one a little bit, 2.9 to 5.4. But still, these are just wave that's the currents associated with this could still be quite strong and damaging. So remember that. Port San Luis also. I mean, yeah. Oregon, Port Orford, Brookings, Adak, Alaska. Hawaii will be at high tide. That's interesting, even though the tides don't vary as much. They just mentioned that some of those deep water buoys picked up a wave height of 3 feet, and they talked about it could be potentially more once those reach some coastal areas. So next high, so California is a little bit, okay, so high tide in California actually 1:29 a.m. That's, okay. Well, the waves still could be going on, so that might be a little bit of an issue there, but the wave heights themselves don't look to be like the main problem. If you're in the open ocean, you're fine because you can just ride, these waves will go right underneath you. They're usually not very high in the open ocean. It's when they bunch up, when they approach the shallower coastal waters. You might think somebody's trolling when they say, I wonder if this affects how long the day is. And actually, these huge earthquakes actually do change the rotation of the planet ever so slightly. And you have to actually adjust atomic clocks and things like that because the actual rotation of the Earth gets messed up a little bit. In fact, after the Sumatra quake, I think they could still detect that the Earth was still shaking from the earthquake months later, if you can believe that. Don't take anything I say as, absolute truth. Research it for yourself just to make sure, because I'm just reporting back things that I read in scientific papers and from other scientists and whatnot. And I may not be repeating it exactly as what they said. But yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff going on here. Check it out. We had thunderstorm activity across the Cascades, a lot of thunderstorms across Oregon. This activity will be moving north here over the next couple of days. We got the Bear Gulch fire producing a bunch of smoke currently. I'm going to update that as well. I'm almost tempted. Let's do this. Let's go to... You can actually see, you can see the hot spot there actually blowing up. I'm going to go even closer here. Can you see the hot spot, the orange there? You can actually see the flames from the Bear Gulch fire. So yeah, if you're across Seattle, you can have a view of the Olympic Mountains. Go outside and check that out. Low tide Cape Disappointment 11 p.m. But just remember those waves, the currents can go on for hours after the initial waves arrive. And yes, the entire state of Hawaii is under a tsunami warning, as you can see here on tsunami.gov. We're still waiting for any kind of new updates here. It might be a while. Kurt Kaplan is a tsunami expert. He used to work for the National Weather Service. You can see his text right here. Tsunamis across the open, deep ocean travel as fast as a jet, around 500 miles per hour. When it reaches the coastal topography, the waves slow down and the wave heights increase. Idaho noted. That's a good question. That's something I'm still reading about. That Eric Keenan mentions how much did Hunga Tonga affect our global climate. It actually pumped a whole bunch of water vapor into our atmosphere. So I'm still kind of reading about that. It looks like it did have some net effect on warming of our climate, though. Workers at Fukushima nuke plant evacuated. We got people out there near the Bear Gulch fire living. Interesting. Tsunami can last a long time. That is not a dumb question. Look at this. Crescent City, California, 36 hours Forecast tsunami duration. Port San Luis, 24 hours. Port Orford, 15. Adak, Alaska, 15. These currents last a long time. Fort Bragg, 9. Moclips, Washington, 9 hours. I'm going to have to decide pretty soon if I'm going to go out to the Washington coast and try to watch this or not. Maybe if we could catch a harbor or something out there, it might be kind of interesting, but yeah. Well, tsunami has been generated here. There's probably going to be a tsunami at most of these locations here. It's just how big is it going to be. You can see the forecast tsunami height, though, is generally for most areas less than a foot, but there are some exceptions to that, and the tsunami height might not necessarily be the biggest risk. You have dangerous currents and whatnot. Oh, yeah, so let's check that out here really quick. So we'll get back to the tsunami here in a moment. Let's look at the North American, then we'll look at the high-resolution rapid refresh. I do want to see what is forecast to come. And actually, let's back this up. I want to do something here really quick. So let's scroll through today and look at this. You can see just a little blip of precipitation it showed there with the North American model there. So it didn't really pick up too much on that lightning activity. Now let's do this. I want to see how this did for today. Let's back up to the 18Z, and we're going to go to severe weather. We're going to go to lightning flash density potential. Let's back that up. Did you see anything for Washington? I don't see anything there. So it missed all this thunderstorm activity here. That's why you got to take some of these models sometimes with a grain of salt. Didn't pick up on any of this stuff. And if you look there, you see these thunderstorms there. You can see the anvil blowing off now on the remnants of that thunderstorm activity. Let me bounce out a little bit here so you have a better view of it. And you can see, we had tens of lightning strikes here. South of Mount Rainier, Chinook Pass, another one off to the east there. So yeah, you can see the models didn't do too hot with that activity here. We went back to the 18Z, and I don't see one lightning strike on the high resolution rapid refresh. We go through tomorrow, you can see similar areas though. Cascade Crest, Mount Rainier, eastern portions, Chinook Pass, yet again under the gun for some thunderstorm activity. And again, much of Oregon Cascades, a lot of lightning coming in tomorrow. Some of that trying to move out over the foothills as well. So we'll scroll on in towards Thursday morning, and look at this. Some of this starting to show up here. Here we go. Northwest Oregon, Southwest Washington is starting to show up a little bit there as well. Are we going to get a little bit of a lightning show here across some of Washington, Oregon, west of the Cascades? The HRRR shows that it just might happen. But again, looking at what happened today, it did not pick up on that lightning activity across the Washington Cascades. So it might be underdoing things as well. So it could be a pretty good show tomorrow. Not yesterday. So now let's take a look at the 0Z. This goes out 48 hours as well. So if you look at 0Z, the HRRR, although it was late, it did pick up on some of that action. Let's jump back one more hour still. It did pick up on some of that there as well by 23. So it did start to self-correct once it got a little bit closer, but there's 22, a little bit. Let's go back to 21. Nothing, not a thing. So let's bounce back out here one more time. We'll get back to the tsunami stuff here in a moment. So here we go. Let's take a look at what it shows for tomorrow. And you can see thunderstorm activity, Mount Rainier under the gun. That might be fun to chase. And then we go through the overnight hours Thursday morning. Look at this. A little bit of lightning potential across Seattle. Maybe. We'll see how that goes. And then we go through the day on Thursday. Some of those, are they going to crawl off the mountains? There doesn't really look like it. There is a little bit of potential there for maybe some of Western Oregon as well. So there is that chance, ever so slight, of getting a few lightning strikes west of the Cascades as of right now. And if we take a look at precipitation one more time here, I just want to kind of look at this really quick. Let's go through Wednesday. And again, you can see with all that lightning out there, these aren't producing a lot of precipitation, so that could start some forest fires. Let's hope not. But then you can see some of that in the Thursday overnight hours. So anyway, back to the tsunami here. Let's take a look if there's been any updates. Nothing yet. Update this. Looks like they've been updating some of this without updating the other map there. I'm going to close that one down. And if you guys are just joining too, if you look out towards the actual that show the Bear Gulch? It does not. Let's go a little bit further north. You can actually see the Bear Gulch fire. You can see its actual glow there on the GOES 18 satellite imagery showing where the hot spot of that fire is. Hilo Airport closed. Interesting. You figure, I mean, they've got a few more hours. I wonder why they're closing it so soon. I guess because it takes people a long time sometimes. So yeah, if you're just joining, 8.8 earthquake out there. Just off to the west of the Aleutian Islands. Tsunami warning for some of the Aleutian Islands. Tsunami waves have been generated. They've done damage in Russia. I think they've done some damage in Japan as well. Tsunami warning in effect for the Hawaiian Islands and a tsunami advisory for West Canada, Washington, Oregon, and California. Adak, Alaska just recorded a tsunami. Yeah, I'm sad about that. We're closing down Hurricane Center stuff and we're impacting satellite funding and things like that. Not good news for the weather community and then hence for the rest of the population of the planet by cutting back on that stuff. But what can you do? Tsunami advisory. If we go down towards Portland, you can see the tsunami advisory. Let's see if they say anything different on here. Looks like it is the exact same text that is on the Seattle site. We'll back up there and we'll go down a little bit further. Medford, has anything been updated here? No. Tsunami advisory. We're going to go down to, okay, we'll go to Sacramento. We'll bounce out to Eureka here. Probably just a similar text up and down the coast. Yep, they got that blanket text there. Kamchatka. Yeah, thanks guys. Still 1,700 people in the chat. We're at 98,774 live count. And we picked up, what is that? We picked up about 500 subscribers here just in this live chat. Probably not a lot of bots with that as well. I think most of the people in here are real. So fun stuff there. There was some bot cleaning going on over the last few months. As you can see, we kind of went through a period of just almost no growth of the subscriber count. But I could see it going up and down on a daily basis. So it's kind of interesting watching that. And there's over the last year. You can see how it flattened out. I think they were doing a lot of cleaning of the bots. Over by Hood Canal, we have 3 wildfires right now. Bear Gulch is about 1,300 acres. Hama, 65. Brown Creek, almost 12 acres. Thanks for the kind words, Rainier. Russia just got hit with another 6.0. Is that correct? Let's update that. Well, I see numerous 5.0 earthquakes. A lot of these are aftershocks. As you see, if I click on them, you can see the blue dot light up when I click. All in the general area of the huge, massive 8.8 earthquake that struck a few hours ago, followed by a couple of huge aftershocks, 6.9, 6.3, and there is the 8.8 right there. Big one. That is a big earthquake, probably the biggest earthquake on planet Earth in the last 14 years. Thanks for gifting the memberships there. All right, Susan, you upgraded to 8.8. That is correct. That's what I have latest. 8.8 earthquake. Looks like there was another 5.5 bouncing around in the 5-point region there. I'll leave it there. But yeah, there was the 8.8 earthquake just over 3 hours ago now, I believe, if I'm reading that correctly. Yeah, I've got people with interest in Hawaii that have been texting me and stuff, and it is absolutely crazy there. The good thing is they've still got time. You still got, what, 2.5 hours at least before any wave action would arrive, but hopefully everybody is on their way away from the lower terrain, beach line, bay areas. Honolulu earth cams, people still on the beach. That's a little discouraging there. I mean, if nothing else, this is a good drill for people along the Ring of Fire here. If you don't know what the Ring of Fire is, basically all the earthquake activity we get here around the Pacific Ocean, up and down South America and North America. So it's, if nothing else, it is a good drill. Jonathan Tsunami, member for 6 months. Thank you very much for joining. I think we're coming out of low tide, but again, these tsunami currents and waves can last for many hours. So the tide will be rising and there'll be currents going on when it is still ongoing. Yeah, that's a good point too. Justina Novak mentioned that Bear Gulch is only 10% contained. It lost some ground because I think it was reported at 15% prior. Yeah, and if you're wondering about that Bear Gulch fire, there it is right there. I mean, that thing is that's producing a lot of smoke. It's almost reached out towards Sequim and Port Angeles locations out here. This is thunderstorm debris clouds now floating off to the north. We're going to have some reoccurring thunderstorms here over the next couple of days also. Kurt sent me another list there. This is Crescent City, California. Still waiting for the waves arrival there. Okay, I've got that ready to go. Yeah, and this is just a good reminder of, if you live near the coastal areas, it's a very good idea to have your tsunami route in effect, because a lot of times you're not going to have 8 hours warning. When the one goes off on our coastline here, you're going to have 15 minutes. So you really need to know where to go. The good thing about that is you feel the shaking, you know the wave's likely coming, you can act immediately. But yeah, good idea to know your tsunami evacuation routes. Generally small waves expected, but that does not mean there can't be dangerous current activity. 94 in Colville, Washington. Hawaii Civil Defense had their tsunami evacuation info up. Hurricane Iona advisory number 12 for Hawaii. Yes, there's some tropical systems that are starting to get going a little bit here as well. Actually, let's take a look at that. You got Kelly out there. You got Iona right here. Hurricane Iona passing south of the Big Island. Another potential for some development out there across the Central Pacific Ocean. Eastern Pacific Ocean does portions of the West Mexico coastline. In the Atlantic, not much going on right now. See if we got any updates here tsunami-wise. Nope. Still stuck there. Okay, so this is what the Crescent City tidal gauge looked like in 2011. Okay. I mean, this is incredible. So what is this 16Z? These are 4-hour clips you're looking at here. 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. You can see it took over 16 hours before some of these waves calmed down. That is pretty wild. And you can see the initial waves weren't really the biggest, and then they got pretty big here for, a good 4-8 hour period. So yeah, very interesting stuff. This was just sent to me by Kurt Kaplan as well. But you can see how you can really see the arrival of those waves. So it'll be interesting to see what this round brings. Yeah, tsunami is a rise in water levels. Just you figure a 1 foot wave is not that big of a deal, but of course you raise the water, and then you've got all these nasty currents, and maybe the wave comes in a little bit bigger, and then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of a different scenario. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. I got to bookmark this one. Yeah, like Kurt mentions, it won't have this big of an amplitude, but you get an idea when the waves will arrive. I think you're just losing the energy as it moves through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. By the time it got to Seattle, you probably lose a lot of its wave energy. The issue for Seattle and Tacoma is if there's one of the shallow faults goes in the Puget Sound and you get some kind of uplift in the Puget Sound. In the past, we have evidence of some very dangerous tsunami activity prior. Let's see, where did I put the buoy data here? Let's see. I need a bit of a tutorial on how to read this, because I see the water level get a little bit squirrely with some of this, but I don't know what that means exactly. Let's check it out. Wave coming back up there. But the flashing ones, yeah, it looks like there's some interesting water column height going on some of these, but I don't know if I'm reading that exactly correctly. It looks like there is a rise there, though. Donald Rapone, welcome to Basic Channel Support. And if you're wondering what all that smoke is over the Olympic Mountains messing with your sunset if you're in Seattle, that is the Bear Gulch fire. If you look closely, you can actually see the hot spot. Japan's tsunami waves look pretty wild, actually, some people are saying now. Yeah, it does look a little bit choppy. You can see the waves running up on some of the jetties and stuff out there pretty well. I can't show it right now. I don't want to get in trouble. I got in trouble when I did the Hunga Tonga. I showed just a couple seconds of a video just flipping through X, and they made me take off like a 30-second chunk of my video, so I don't want to do that again. Second tier channel support. Thanks for the coverage. Thank you, TJ. Thanks for the generosity. Thanks for the channel support. We got 20 more subscribers. Look at that, 99,000. If we hit, for some reason, 100,000, whenever I'll just give away weather station when we hit 100,000. Why not? I mean, it's going to be a fun milestone to hit. Yeah, overall, this is difficult to predict. You don't know exactly. You wouldn't want to just be like, hey, it's going to be 1 foot wave height, and then all of a sudden you get some kind of wave amplification, and you're dealing with something a bit more sinister, and it starts causing damage and whatnot. Any updates yet? Nope, it's been a while now. It's been a while since they've last updated. Actually, this was issued 7/25, so not that long ago. There are updated observations, revised magnitude here. Let's see. So tsunami advisory is in effect for California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, South Alaska, Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Islands. See any kind of update to the wave heights here. Let's see, Fort Bragg. The biggest threats right now are Crescent City and Port San Luis. Because again, this is kind of a general water height rays, and then you're getting all kinds of current activity. And you can see the tsunami duration forecast, 36 hours for Crescent City, 15 for Port Orford. So yeah, you could get some boat damage and stuff going on in the harbors. Washington Coast smoke clips, I mean, that could be kind of interesting as well. Yeah, I'll have to end the live stream here pretty quick. I was supposed to be out doing some yard work today, actually some work on a deck. I heard about the tsunami, and I was going to live stream some point tonight anyway and talk about the thunderstorm activity. So that is something that I might as well talk about the tsunami at the same time. Yeah, there we go, 98,810. We're getting up there. We're getting close. Yeah, we'll get all kinds of updates tomorrow. Jonathan, thanks for the update. You need to be Rumble, share what you want. Yeah, so we're waiting. We got a tsunami advisory for the West Coast. Again, wrapping things up. I'll probably end the stream here in a little bit, but we got a tsunami advisory for the West Coast. Generally smallish waves, but some place like Crescent City, expecting some larger waves. There's tsunami warnings in effect for the Hawaiian Islands, the Aleutian Islands, and there was an 8.8 earthquake right off the coast of Russia there. Kamchatka, 8.8, big aftershocks. Aftershocks continue in that general area. There's some tsunami waves hitting Japan as we speak right now as well. National Weather Service Spokane, pretty strong wording about the storms upcoming here. So let's take a look, shall we? Let's mention that. Spokane National Weather Service is always on top of things there. Yeah, you can see scattered Thursday and Friday. Lightning, fire starts, gusty outflow, winds, downpours, heavy rain, heat advisory, forest fires, tsunamis. We got everything. I'm going to jump back down towards Pendleton. There's Portland right there. Let's jump back out towards abundant lightning. Just issued this evening in Pendleton. We'll get some of these wind gusts. 50 to 60 miles per hour in combination with dry fuels. A red flag warning has been issued. Watch out there. This could end up being a big story. All it takes, we've had big fires already this year, and some of these fires may exhibit rapid growth. And this could be a problem here tomorrow, or it could be a problem actually right now. We had some pretty good thunderstorm activity here across portions of Washington. Haven't had much rain there. We've had a pretty big precipitation deficit over the last few years as well across some of the Cascades. We got some severe drought out there. So yeah, some of these lightning strikes could be starting some fires, and we got more to come. Wind, water, earth, and fire. That's right. Thanks for the kind words, everybody. Yeah, it can be tricky. We got so many terrain features in this area. It's so difficult to cover everything. The weather is so different in Bellingham versus Everett versus Seattle and Olympia and Portland and all the way down the Oregon coast and into the Willamette Valley and eastern Washington. It just gets so crazy. And then you get the Cascades and their huge snowfalls. And yeah, we got a lot of different stuff it can be difficult to cover here. So it's kind of fun doing this, but it can be challenging at times when we have a lot of activity going on. July 29, 2021, 8.2 hit Alaska. Thanks for the generosity, Barb. Arian. I'm going to close that one out there. I don't need the X up. Close that one. We're going to close that and that and that. Pendleton. But yeah, I was going to see what the North American model also shows for tomorrow. So again, when you're looking at the NAM, you see these little blurbs starting to show up tomorrow afternoon. Those are going to be lightning producers. I can almost guarantee you right there. That's pretty close to Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, And these little blurbs moving around, this is really not doing it justice. There's probably going to be some thunderstorm activity across eastern Washington, maybe Moses Lake, Euphrates, up towards Wenatchee. And look at Oregon. Again, some very strong winds could be accompanying these thunderstorms as we go through tomorrow. Wednesday night, we go into Thursday morning, and look at this complex. Try to move out into some of western Oregon there. How far is that going to make it? How far north is this going to get? And man, look at on Thursday afternoon at some of this lightning activity across the Cascades. This is going to be wild. I don't know how much of that is going to make it over the lower elevations. There's not a lot of instability across the Puget Sound. But again, you cannot rule it out, especially some of this could move on into some of the populated areas of the foothills of Washington. You can see this move up across Lake Chelan, Wenatchee, North Cascades, up into British Columbia potentially as well. And then another round looks like it comes through on Thursday night, Spokane, all the way north of Euphrates, back towards Chelan, maybe Omak. And then we go on into Friday. Still some showers spinning around here as we go through the day Friday. Seafair's first day on Friday. Let's see what it looks like for the Blue Angels practice, because the practice would be right about here, the first practice. So I think Seattle is okay for the Blue Angels initial practice there. Kauai Mayor asking people to get to higher ground live on Hawaii News. Yes, indeed. You don't know how these waves are going to play out. I would not be near the coastal areas if I was in Hawaii. I mean, I would maybe, but I'd be chasing them, but I'd make sure that I had access to high ground. You don't want to be messing around with tsunami waves. Yeah, exactly. Like BRI mentioned, Renton to Redmond even has big differences. Yeah, I mean, you'll go from SeaTac to Olympia and just a little bit east or across the sound and you get different weather. It's one of the most difficult places to forecast weather on the planet. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. So I'm going to do this so I can get my chores done here today at home, and I can go eat a little bit of food here before I go to bed, and I will get up tomorrow morning and I will do another briefing here. And maybe I will live stream either tomorrow or Thursday with some of this thunderstorm activity. It looks like Thursday looks like a particularly active day across some portions of Oregon and Washington. These storms really get ramped up here as we go through Thursday afternoon. So I will probably be out chasing this, and I'll probably end up live streaming it as well. But yeah, what else? One more look here. We'll update this. It looks like we are okay there. That last update was about 35 minutes ago or so. Anything new here? I don't think so. So I think, yeah. But yeah, what else? I guess I will just end the live stream now. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll do my normal briefings, and I may live stream at some point tomorrow or Thursday as well. Depending on what's going on, maybe I'll live stream anyway. So, yep. What else? Okay, yep. I'm going to end the live stream now, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, I'll just do it. Here we go.